Hey everyone, welcome to the show tonight. I've got Grumpy Acres Farm on again with us. Been a while, been I don't know a month or so since we were
Yeah.
on. We were on with Tag before, and wanted to just get on and have a conversation with you on my channel and your channel. Tonight we're going to go over. You sent me some pretty cool notes or some ideas about topics, and a lot of what you talk about is community and things like that. But how you phrased it pretty interestingly, where everyone is on the prepping, homesteading
hmm
spectrum, which is pretty cool because I was thinking about that, and it's like you got some people that are maybe live in the suburbs, some people that are just starting out, some people that are further along like you, some people that are right in the middle like me. So it's pretty interesting, and also want to talk about where bartering and things like that come in. I had a question from Jammer in our private group. He had about that as well. I want to pose to you, and then towards the end, I suppose we'll get into a couple other things as well that I want to save it for the end, just because the whole Sound of Freedom thing and our thoughts on that, and just society going that direction, and how just regardless whether you're a prepper or not, it's just awful. It's terrible that it's becoming okay. Things like that. It's ridiculous. So, Bill in the chat, what's going on? Denise is here. Liberated Lady, Brandon, everyone, welcome to the show. Can't see your broadcast on your channel as well. I can't see yours, but if you have anything out there, anybody makes any comments on your channel, just let me know, and we can uh, we
Well,
can.
hopefully it's out there. You'd think that the IT guy could figure this stuff out, but I spent like 30 minutes trying to get my channel on there, and I'm not quite sure if I did it or not. Hang on,
well,
I'll go look.
and I did see a notification that you did actually that you added to this event. So I think I think it worked. We'll see.
Well, yeah, it's on there, but I'm not gonna follow my chat. So guys, if you're on my channel watching it and you want to make a comment, come over here to Dale's, and well,
Yeah.
actually, it's running now. Now I'm hearing an echo. There we go. Come over
Okay.
here and make a comment here on this chat, okay?
What actually this says paired, so maybe I don't know if you are or not. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Before we get into all this stuff, though, I wanted to mention you guys sent me some long-term food, some freeze-dried food, a
hmm
couple weeks ago, and I was thinking about getting a harvest right before that, but I tasted. I'm sure you didn't cook it. I'm sure it's your wife's pot roast,
Yeah.
but it was so amazing. We ended up, Lisa and I decided we were going to go ahead and bite the bullet and get a harvest right, because it's fantastic. The difference between your homemade freeze dried stuff compared to the legacy that I sell over at the SHTF
hmm
shop and stuff, it's not terrible, but it's completely different. I mean, that pot roast tasted like home cooked, like you just pulled it out of the refrigerator, put it in the microwave, and heated it up. I mean,
Right.
that's how wonderful it was. So
Right. And that's a good thing about the harvest rate. And I think Four Patriots is selling one now too. I haven't seen any reviews on it. There's another company that's selling one now, but the freshness of the materials going in. It's not assembled in the United States. It's made in your kitchen. And that's how it all started with us. Um, my wife, I'm not a small guy because my wife can't cook for two people, right? So all the extra stuff ended up going into the freeze dryer. I'm getting that echo again. Is anybody getting an echo? Or is it just me?
in the chat, let us know if you're actually getting an echo from Grumpy.
All right, because if it's just me, I can deal with it. But anyway, and so yes, we sell the freeze dried food, and by all means, grumpyacrestore.com. Order it, email us if you want something special. Um, but go buy a freeze dryer. That's what you should do.
Yeah, and this is your store right here, and you guys are in the process of setting that up. Tim said he is getting an echo,
Okay,
so
we'll
but
see.
you guys are in the process of getting that set up. I don't know what we. Uh, he said Bill said it comes and goes.
Okay,
We'll have
maybe,
to.
maybe I don't know. We'll just deal with it.
Yeah. Well,
If it gets too
I
bad, let me know.
but you guys just are in the process of setting up that store. And if you just want to try some out, go there and buy something. Go there and buy one thing. I mean, you've got ice cream sandwiches, you got all sorts of fun
Mhm.
stuff as well. We had some of the Skittles. Lisa just had some of the rice. I forget what it's. I'm drawing a blank on what it's called now, but just fantastic stuff. So, chicken a la king, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Grumpy likes hearing himself talk. That's all. Rabbit Coyote said that. But yeah, it's really cool stuff. And if you just want to try and see what the heck I'm talking about, go get some from their shop and just see. I mean, it's just a massive difference from the stuff you get at the big box stores, I suppose. You know, the things that you can even buy at Walmart these days, the Augustin Farms and things like that. It's fantastic. And then save your money. I'll tell you what, I'm super excited about this harvest right. It's only a small one because I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to scale with this right now, but I mean, it's so good that we had to bite the bullet and just go ahead and do that. But it's fantastic. Do your own food and you know exactly what's in it. You know exactly, how it was made and the preservatives, far less salt than you would get from the other big box ones. So very cool.
Absolutely.
And then one other thing, I wanted you to talk a little bit about you guys. I don't know if it's you that put on the Midwest Preparedness Project or if that is just a group you're associated with. What kind of explain to people what that's all about and what you're doing over there?
So it started about 15 years ago with 7 families. And it was just a biannual camp out, spring and fall. And we would get together. Yoda and I have been involved for about 12 years now. And it was just a camp out. We started out on the, I don't know if you remember survivalist boards.
Yeah.
We started out there and it has grown. And last year we had 225 people. So
cool.
Lake Perry, Kansas, if you can make it, when is it? It is the first week in October this year. And if you can make it, there's camping and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, Brian and I were a couple weeks ago. We were talking about the kind of the difference between like prepper conventions, like the ones we have out here, or the last one we had out here in Colorado in Denver, anyway. Just a big convention. You go in and everybody's just basically selling stuff, which is what you need. I mean, that's what you should expect at events like this. But I think something like that preparedness, the Midwest Preparedness Project, I was going to say experience, the Preparedness Project, that's a little bit different because yes, there are things you can buy as preppers, but it's also sort of a get together, right? Just hanging out with a bunch of like-minded people and learning and classes and things like that. Correct?
Last year was the first year that we had vendors, and it worked out well. We only had like 6 of them, so people weren't selling stuff. But Spags from Spags Unfilter and Data from Getting Deep with Data have taken over kind of running the show. Spags used to do the Kansas Preparedness Expo in Topeka. So he knows how to run these shows, and we've grown it. We had really good speakers last year. We've got great speakers coming this fall. David the Good's going to, or not David the Good, Chuck Peoples is going to be there. I think he's speaking at Spags said. And we got a whole bunch of other people. But yeah, it's a good experience because you can camp all week long. There's classes Friday and Saturday, and it's a great time. Seriously.
Yeah. If Lisa and I don't get out a whole lot, having, and I'm sure but you know too, having animals and things like that. It makes it a little bit difficult to run around. But Rabbit Coyote said, "What's the date again?"
What's the date, Angela?
It's the first weekend in October.
First weekend in October.
Okay, cool. All right, so I wanted to, before we get into all of the, I call it Prepsteading, homesteading, the different levels of all of this stuff, or just basic prepping. I want to, let me see if I can find it here. I posed the question, I asked if anybody had any questions for you today in the group here. And Jammer put this up, and I just want to read this and then Mama Bear's comment after this and let you expand on it. But he said, hey, Dale, ask them. I think he thought Tag was going to be on tonight, too. But he said, ask them about how to determine the exchange rate. Example, 5 lighters equals 1 tarp. We kind of know what their worth is based on currencies, but without them, how would we determine that? How would we determine what's fair? Most of us suck at bartering because our society hardly ever does it. And then Mama Bear commented, she said, I couldn't agree more. this will need to be a developed skill, as I don't even like to do garage sales because I don't like to haggle for prices. I prefer them to tell me what they want for it, and I'll choose whether I want to buy it or not. So he brings up a good point there, because we don't think about these things anymore. But how do we figure out? And this reminded me of a video when I was watching one of your videos from a few days ago. You guys were talking about bartering a lamb for a bunch of chickens. How do you figure out that value in a situation where, and we're going to dive deeper into this as far as, the community and all that, and how you build that to where there are things to barter. But how do you figure out that value of what to trade this for that?
Okay, there's 2 points in that, in what was said. Mama Bear is absolutely right. It is a skill that needs to be developed. And there are people out there like you've met Tag online. Tag is a natural at bartering. Yoda, my wife, is a natural at bartering.
The haggler?
Yeah, I suck.
Seriously. Yeah, me too.
So it's a skill you have to develop. That's why we have Barter Town every Saturday night at the festival. That's why we do it. The second thing is, as long as both people are walking away satisfied, that's what the price is. That's what it's worth. So
yeah,
the key is having a good feeling like you weren't gypped or you didn't take advantage of somebody. That's what those 5 lighters are.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's a little bit sort of like gambling, a gambling aspect of it as well is, and that's what just Rabbit Coyote was just sort of on his comment that I just pulled down. He was talking about scarcity. Wait, that's not the comment. Oh yeah, scarcity and need. It's sort of like gambling, I think, because if you know that person really needs to get rid of something, you've got a leg up. Or if that person knows that you really need something, they've got a leg up. So
right.
It's one of those situations where it really does, pay. Oh, I'm hearing myself again.
Oh, that was me. I apologize.
Nope. If I turn you down, I can't hear you. So, but it is one of those things where you sort of almost like these days going to garage sales and just doing that stuff and practicing the haggling thing, because we don't do it anymore. And I'd rather not. I see somebody's price and I'm just like Mama Bear. It's like, you know what? If that's what you're asking, I'll go somewhere else.
Well, and I think that the key to bartering for me is to forget what it costs. Don't think about the monetary value. Think about the value it is for you, and think about what the value it is for the other person. Because I've done some trades since we started practicing this, where at the beginning I felt like I was taking advantage of somebody. But they walked away extremely happy, and I was happy. And I had to learn, it's not the monetary value that's important. It's the esoteric value of it. So if I've got a box with 20 lighters in it, the value of those 20 lighters is a lot less than the person that is freezing to death because they don't have a lighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's the key to it. As long as everybody walks away happy with the trade, you're good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is one of those things that we do sort of have to break, because we have this defined idea about what something is worth, what we would go to Amazon and pay for it, what we would go, expect to see it at the grocery store, what we'd pay for it. But that's not necessarily the case when you have a system like this, because, one, it could be just the friendship you're trying to build. That could factor into what the cost is as well. So many different things. So yeah, the cost, I think you hit it right off the bat there when you were talking about how it's whatever you feel like it's worth and whatever they feel like it's worth. As long as it's agreed upon, it doesn't matter if it's a brand new tractor for a handful of Bic lighters. That would be crazy. I would take that deal in a second. It's a little bit extreme, but it really is that situation. If somebody needs a shovel, they have to have a shovel to plant, to garden, to do whatever. That they're gonna value that a lot more than, like you just had a couple baby lambs, right?
Right.
You had a lamb and needed chickens, so you valued those chickens, and you got quite a bit. I didn't know a lamb was worth 50 some chickens.
Actually, they're worth more.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that whole bartering thing, right? I'm sure you guys settled on a set amount?
Yeah, it was, it was with friends, so there was no need to make a lot of, like, make bank on it, if you will. I don't know if you want to say it that way, but it was with friends, and we both needed something, and we traded it, and it was all good, you know?
Ghost said here, Grumpy, I walked away from our trade at the meetup with a smile on my face and 10 dozen eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. But yeah, I mean, it is one of those situations where as preppers, and maybe it's different, and this sort of goes into that whole spectrum thing. As preppers, the majority of preppers sort of think of the whole Bic lighter thing and what's going to be good when everything just goes completely to crap, right? Mad Max type situation, Bic lighters, batteries, those things you can carry in your pocket and trade with, strangers and things like that. But honestly, there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot harder as well. And I'll let you dive into this, but it's a lot more to it when you're talking about trading with friends. It's a lot safer as well. You're not trading something with a perfect stranger, and all of a sudden he's seeing how much stuff you have. But it's also with a friend there. If you can build up that community, if you can build up that support group, and that the whole bartering, that secondary economy, I suppose, you have a lot of different options. So you can barter skills, you can barter goods. It's not just those little trinkets and gadgets that you're trying to get rid of, or trying to get one thing, from somebody that you don't even know. That is a tough situation though for a lot of people, because they aren't in the situation, say like you are, or even me a little bit out here, kind of in between. What is like some of your advice as far as if they're on that end of the spectrum, whether that's first starting out, or how to kind of elaborate on the whole spectrum thing that you were talking about, I suppose.
Okay, so I'm a firm believer that homesteading is the ultimate expression of preparedness. So every prepper, that you start out as that person that looks at the gear and goes, oh, I got to buy that, and you start buying gear, and then you figure out the skills are better, and then as a prepper you mature, and you become more and more concerned about things that are more long term and beneficial to you, and eventually you start thinking about raising your own food. You start with rabbits or something like that. So eventually you get to the point where you start homesteading. Not everybody's going to get there. Not everybody wants to be there. I get it. I completely understand it. But the idea behind everything, whether you're a starting prepper or you're a homesteader, the idea is this thing. It's to be as self-sufficient and prepared as possible, right? So when it comes to being on that spectrum, it's about building the community, right? Because in my opinion, the community is the most important thing, and it looks different for everybody. For the prepper, you're looking at a mag, right? You always hear about people building mags. For the homestead community, it's building a larger community. Hang on, my wife just walked in. She seems to think it's the microphone being too close to me.
Oh, could be.
It's the fact that it's restreamed and I'm a terrible IT guy. That's what it is.
Leave it alone.
Okay, I'm not supposed to touch it. I have been told. But and building community is the whole point of where you are in the spectrum, and it's like I said, it's going to look different for everybody. The hardest part of building a community is that first conversation with somebody. Bartering with somebody is a fantastic way to build relationships, right? Because you get to know somebody, and the more you barter with them, the more familiar you get with how they are and what they are. And it doesn't mean you got to be friends with somebody that you're bartering with, but you'd be surprised at how much like-minded thinking you can find with somebody. Mutual interest, mutual understanding about something, and it's so I can't even tell you how important it is to start building that community, and what a good tool bartering is to start doing it. Is that answer the question? I mean, I kind of got sidetracked there, but
yeah, and I didn't. I could have phrased it better because I asked you about 14 questions in one. But yeah, to everyone in the chat, I was just checking with them too. They said there's no more echo. So whatever you did,
a better IT guy than I am.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you did, because I wanted to elaborate a little bit on it, because there are people, some people just have no plans
Mhm.
whatsoever to get into the homesteading thing. And that's fine. That's to each their own. And I think that if as long as you're just doing something, and as long as you're paying attention, and as long as you have your head buried in the sand, I think you're at least in the game.
Right.
But I think, and somebody, I can't remember who it was, somebody in the chat made the comment that as preppers, that should be sort of an ongoing goal to get
Mhm.
to the point. Maybe, like you were talking about, maybe some people, they don't want to get to the point where you are, or aren't going to be able to get to the point that you are. Like me, like I said, I'm not the suburban, but I'm not out. I don't have the big setup like you have.
Right.
But that is a goal for Lisa and I to get it. It's always a goal. Will we get there? I don't know, but we're going to try. And I think that's what preppers should be doing, because it is that community that really, you think in a Mad Max type situation, preppers, we like to talk about that all the time. That's really sort of unlikely when compared to, say, some sort of economic crisis, or something that just rips this country apart, but doesn't completely break it down. If that happens, that's where what you were just talking about with that community,
Mhm.
where that's going to be super important, and the whole bartering economy,
Right.
because with the supply lines down, and this could be just a couple weeks, a couple months, if you have the means to do things and get the things that you want in that situation, you're going to be far better off than a lot of people are
Right.
in the world, in
Well,
the
and
country.
here's something to think about. Think about a pencil. There's not a single person in this chat that will see this video that has the knowledge to make a pencil, a modern pencil, like a number two pencil that you get. Think about the skill sets that are involved in that, and think about the materials needed to cut the wood, mine the graphite, to get the rubber. So for somebody to sit here and think that, oh, I'm going to take care of everything myself, that's a crazy thought. Now you can push to be as self-sufficient as possible, and by self-sufficient I mean modernly self-sufficient, which is defined as being able to take care of as many problems as you can with the tools, materials, and skills that you have on hand. Right? That's what you should be pushing for. But even then, I mean, think about it. We call ourselves homesteaders, but we're not really homesteaders. We're modern homesteaders, because
Mhm.
we're not. The only place I think you can actually homestead in America now is Alaska, and I think Tennessee actually has homesteading laws now, or like true homesteading laws where you can get land for free. You know, but our ancestors that were out here in Kansas homesteading, they built towns because they couldn't do it by themselves. They understood that at some point you would need a community to, at the very least, interact with to get material goods and things like that. So why as modern homesteaders, why as preppers, should we think that we can be completely self-sufficient, right? You know. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I, I'm messing with some things back here and then reading some comments. So I didn't know you were down. I thought you were going to keep going.
Oh no, you threw me for a loop. When it changed, I was like, oh, that's the picture I was looking for. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
I've been
I was
trying to
just
stay in frame because I move around a lot.
I was just thinking about it when we do your show. You guys are always on full screen, and I was like, why am I not putting this on full screen?
Yeah.
So, but somebody had made a comment, and I pinned it here so I didn't lose it.
Okay.
Again, this is like the fourth comment I pulled up from Ram Coyote, but he's making some good points tonight. And I wanted to ask you about this. 2012 was the last time I considered myself a prepper. Bought my BOL and decided that we needed to just move into it and begin the homesteading process. I'm curious your opinion, and then we'll get back to this. Your opinion on the term prepper, because for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you or not. It's something that it's more of a way to just categorize what I do. But there are a lot of people in my group, and people that have joined the bug out location, and just people that I've interacted with over the years that are sort of like him, that just don't consider themselves preppers. But it is that term, that you kind of have to use because so people know what the heck you're talking about. Sort of like the homesteading thing where what you were talking about. But what are your thoughts on the whole, prepper thing as a, or
Up
homesteader thing or the whole categorizing everything?
up until recently, I despised the word prepper, and that's thanks to National Geographic. They
Yeah.
took and they stigmatized that word so badly. And it's only been the last 2 or 3 years that I've been able to start using it again and feeling comfortable with it. And I agree with you. It's a way to describe where you are on the spectrum. And it's like one half of that prep or homesteading spectrum. And I think people need to, if they're going to talk about themselves being preppers, they need to think more about where they are on that timeline. Because the person that's just getting into it, the person that just got their eyes opened up and is running off their pet fear. What the fear that drove them to buy that first bug out bag or whatever, buy
Mhm.
their first case of beans, whatever it was. That person is a lot different than the person that's reached the point where they're raising rabbits in their suburban backyard for protein, and they're going out and they're paying for classes like foraging classes and going to self-defense classes, gun classes. They're Yes, they're both preppers, but on the spectrum, they're at a completely different point. And I think it's really important that the higher up you are on the spectrum of that, the more important it is for you to encourage people down below you and share your experiences, right?
Mhm.
And I don't mean one of the reasons we got off of survival boards, or I got off a survival board, was because it became toxic.
Yeah.
Seriously. And everybody was an expert, and if you didn't agree with what they said exactly, they would excoriate you and try to tear you down. And that's not what we should be doing. A, it's it's ridiculous. It's childish. B, it's counterproductive because I want that person. I want that person that's terrified of what's going to happen next week. I want that person to get better. And the only way they're going to get better is if we share our experience with them and help elevate them. And as they elevate, they'll elevate us because at the very least we're going to learn how to I don't like to use the word teaching because it implies a student teacher type of relationship, but it's going to elevate us because it's going to help us be able to share what we know better with people, right? I know that sounds kind of touchy feely, but it's the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've listened to Lisa and I for a while,
Uh-huh.
and you know that we tried to get, when people first get interested in prepping, there's that negative because of shows like Doomsday Preppers and
Right.
because of the fear stuff where people are trying to take advantage. People just have this negative connotation of the word prepper. And what we tried to do is to sort of get people that are interested in preparedness. That's what we do with the Bug Out Location membership website,
Mhm.
where we have prepping courses and stuff. Show them that preppers aren't batshit crazy. Like prepper, the term prepper and the actual prepper are completely different, completely different.
Right.
Even to the point where most preppers wouldn't consider themselves preppers, I suppose. So I think it's that education and that stuff that people sort of need to get over that hurdle of understanding that stigma isn't correct. I mean, there's people out there. It's absolutely that way. But
Mhm.
once you get past that, then you can get to the point where it is, that you get past that initial, self consciousness or whatever you want to call it, and then you get into okay, I'm just going to start doing this stuff. I'm going to get into this stuff, and then you move up in that spectrum that we've been talking about tonight, where you get to the point where you're like, okay, what's my next step? What's my next goal? Is it possible? Say I live in, in the outskirts of a city or something. Is it possible to move out to the suburbs with a little bit more property? Start learning. That's the thumbnail of this show. I had one side which is a farm, a homestead, and then
Mhm.
one side with the like a backyard with raised beds and things like that. That's sort of that I think of as Prepsteader, right? Where
Right.
you're doing what you can, but you're not, I wouldn't consider myself a homesteader. I do some of the same things that you do, but I don't think I would. I don't have any lambs or any large game like that. Chickens do not make me a homesteader.
No.
Chickens
Well,
and a few raised beds.
And to be honest with you, when we made the move a year and a half ago, we took a couple of steps back. We're actually closer to Prepsteaders now than we are homesteaders. It's just I've gotten into the habit of saying it. But you make a good point. Nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy on National Geographic that shot his thumb off, or
Yeah.
was shooting his house with the 22 to see if it was bulletproof. Nobody wants to be that guy. So if here's my advice to anybody that's feeling like that's a stigmatized word and you're embarrassed by it, don't use it. So what you talk about is preparedness mindset, the prepared mindset or preparedness. That's all you say. And another thing that does is it allows you to take that conversation and start talking to the people around you that are not like-minded. And you can start talking about it. I use it all the time to talk to my coworkers about the canning that we do and the raising the sheep and trying to get them to realize that they need to be more concerned about this stuff. And it does make a huge difference, because when you're non-aware person, for lack of a better term, here's prepper, they tune you out. Let's face it, they do. They still do, even today, right? And as far as the homesteading go, like I said, we took a couple of steps back and we were closer to Prepsteading because in my mind, a modern homestead is somebody who can raise a majority of their food on their property. And
Mm-hmm.
we were just to the point at the last property where we were getting ready to do that. In fact, the year that COVID hit, we were actually going to start making money off the homestead, actually making a profit off of everything. Clientele dried up. We moved. We lost our entire client. Everybody raises sheep out here, and everybody's got eggs. So our business model was completely shot as we moved. So we had to. That's another reason why we decided to monetize the freeze dried food and all that stuff. And there's another good point. The bartering. And I know you didn't ask about this, but this is an important thing about the bartering system. Is it creates a parallel economy, and it gets us so we're not spending our money in the system, for lack of a better word, or description. We're creating this parallel economy where our wealth stays within our community before it goes off to the state capital or Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why community is so important, and learning these bartering skills and moving your way up that prepper spectrum and building community is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you sort of brought up a good point about the whole bartering thing as well. And I got a question from Jammer too, but you talk about everybody around you. It's got eggs and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a situation like that, you sort of have to pivot, right? Because sort of like you did with the freeze dried food and all that. It's like, okay, this is not going to be beneficial, whether you're talking about trying to make a few bucks to, pay the property tax, or you're trying to, be able to have things to be able to barter with in the future that don't require blood, sweat, and tears. You got to figure out those different things. And I think that is, plus, that freeze dried food is so good. That's worth a few dozen eggs.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's a good point. You've got to figure out what those things are. Jammer said here in the chat, let me pull this up. He said earlier, how do you barter with friends without making them feel screwed? And I think this is one of those things we have sort of this, at least I do, this mentality that, hey, I don't want to, bartering almost feels like shady, right? Like you're trying to cheat somebody, you're trying to get a deal, you're trying to screw them over. And it's really not that way, right? But that's kind of the feeling we have about all this stuff.
Well, and to Jammer's question, there's two things I would say about that. The first one is, and this is gonna sound so bad, when you're done with the trade, no matter how you feel about it, never say, "Man, I got the better end of that deal." Just don't say it. Whether you feel that way or not, just don't say it. And the second thing is, when you're dealing with friends, the friendship is as much the equation as the value of whatever your trading is. And you have to decide at some point, you got to be willing to take less than what you would from a stranger just because they're your friends. And that's why I'm really big on this one. Man, we've got our friends and family values for stuff. And if you're friends and family, what we expect in trade or in monetary compensation is not nearly as much as what we expect from a stranger. You know,
Yeah.
so you got to be willing to make some sacrifices. If you don't want your friends to feel like you're screwing them over, you got to be willing to do that, right? That doesn't mean you let them walk all over you, because inadvertently they might, but you got to be willing to give and take a little bit there.
Yeah. And friends will have a little bit more leeway as well. So if they are in a dire situation, they don't have anything to barter yet, maybe they're waiting for harvest or something like that.
Right.
You're more willing to, help that person out if you've got a little bit of extra, knowing that they're a trustworthy person. They're going to repay you when they can. Whereas a perfect stranger, it's going to be no dice. Sorry about your luck, bro. You're not getting any of my stuff. So yeah.
Well, and here's something else, and it took me 12 years to learn this, seriously, because we've been dealing with this community for 12 years. There is no ledger, right? When we do stuff with people, we do not keep a ledger, and that was something I was extremely guilty of, where I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to feel like I owe that person something. And Darren from Hacks from the Homesteader and Tag and Data and everybody that's involved in our community constantly saying, dude, there's no ledger. All right, we don't keep track of this stuff because in the long run, it's gonna even out.
Mhm.
And if they're true friends and you start taking advantage of them, they'll let you know. They won't
Yeah.
get mad. They'll just be like, hey, dude, you need to cough up something here, right?
Yeah. Or they'll just ignore you and say, I ain't doing business with you anymore, buddy.
We've done that. We've done that
Yeah.
with some people.
Yeah. But it does bring up the point again of community and having those avenues available to you
Mhm.
when and if something does happen, even if it's just a long term, prices are through the roof, and it's y- y- doing these things inside rather than paying the super high taxes and all of the super high prices at the grocery store. Having those little systems set up can save you a few bucks, even if it's like all we have really is basically eggs. We've got our garden, which is basically for us, which is not enough to sustain us, but it's not enough to where we're giving that out to people. But during the summertime, we've got more eggs than we know what to do with. So many
Mhm.
that Lisa is taking them to work and basically making people take dozens of eggs.
Well, now
Now,
that you're getting a freeze dryer, you can freeze dry them.
oh yeah, we're going to be doing that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that. But yeah, you could set something up. Like Lisa was in the chat. Lisa has budget equestrian, by the way. She was in the chat talking about how we've got neighbors that have certain things, and if we have eggs, we can do that. I am not the type of person to walk around to 5 different neighbors like the newspaper delivery guy with 5 dozen eggs and just hand them out all over the place, or collect $2 here and there. But the fact that just making sure that they know that is here, and making sure that they have, I guess, feel like they have access to you, where they can come and say, hey, I've got this. You got any eggs? What about something like this? And then also practice that whole bartering thing,
Right.
and get rid of that guilty I'm trying to screw this guy over feeling that that a lot of people have.
And you got to work on that, seriously, because like I said, it took me 12 years to get over that. And the starting the conversation will lead to people knowing that you're open to doing stuff. I mean, even if you're walking over and you're just saying hi to them, it breeds a little bit of familiarity, and they eventually people will understand, hey, this guy's thinking kind of along the same lines I am, and he's got something, that I don't have. Our garden this year is terrible. Literally the only thing we're having success with is tomatoes. So at the end of the summer, we're going to have a whole bunch of tomatoes. Our potatoes aren't doing very well, and we didn't get very much other stuff in. Between the goats and the dang opossums, we're losing fruit off of fruit trees left and right. We lost all our peaches the other day. Over the weekend, there was like 3 dozen peaches disappeared off our peach tree. So we're gonna be going to our friends and people that we know that have fruit trees and stuff, and we're gonna be, hey, we need to figure something out, and what would you like to trade? All right.
Hmm. Yeah. Brandon said here he barters with his neighbors without a freeze dryer. Cut me in on the surplus eggs, and I'll freeze dry you some stuff. Yeah, yeah, it's that same. You start building those avenues, and then if something does, happen down the pipe, you just never know when that stuff's going to be important, where you may need some of that other stuff. So yeah,
And we've got a large freeze dryer, and our rate of exchange is you give us enough to fill that freeze dryer up, which is 10 dozen eggs, and we keep 2 trays and we give you the other 3. Right? So whatever the math is on that, 120 divided by 5. And so if you've got something you can do that with, it works out well for everybody.
yeah, yeah. Our garden got screwed this year too. We just got pummeled with rain like crazy in June. I mean, like 5-6 days straight, just heavy rain. So almost everything above ground. I've got a couple squash plants left. We got a couple tomato plants. Any sort of melon I tried to grow, no dies. I got potatoes. Anything underground, still decent. But yeah, it just goes to show you in a some sort of, if you're depending on that for your survival, when there are no grocery stores or situations like that, you're going to have, and that's where the long-term food storage comes in, the freeze-dried food. You're going to have that backup, that emergency stuff just to get you through until you can get everything back to normal. And for a lot of people, they don't have the means, and I mentioned this earlier, they don't have the means that you do, so that emergency backup is their harvest, I suppose. Their time when the stores are closed.
Well, it's somebody that's living on a suburban lot, and you can raise a lot of food on a suburban lot. It's super simple, and it just takes you wanting to do it and learning the skills. But if you're living on a suburban lot, you don't have the skills, or you don't have the area, go contact a local farmer. Contact somebody. If you're driving down the road, you see somebody at the big garden, stop by and say hi to them and strike up a conversation. I know it's hard. It's extremely hard, right? But if you do that, you can get into a CSA, a community supported agriculture type of situation, where you're not raising the food, but you're helping finance the person that is, and in response, or as a result, you get some of the harvest off of that. So there's all kinds of ways that you can get that fresh food coming in, so you're not relying on those long-term food storage things. Because let's be honest, fresh veggies are 1,000 times better tasting and better for us than pulling that can out of your long-term storage pantry, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
hey, Gabe said here real quick. He said meat processing also works similarly. Plus it lets you know who can help or trade in the future. Giving you great context. Yeah. Yoda put something right here, and I pulled this up earlier, and I just wanted to show it just to remind Lisa to look into this. But she said, have Lisa order trays for the toaster oven. You'll get more eggs in there.
So the trays that come with the harvest rate only have like a 1/2-inch lip on them. And you can go to Amazon and you buy toaster oven trays that have a 1-inch lip. And you can get more eggs in there, and you don't end up spilling them. She says you get more eggs in there. That's the important thing. My big thing was, when you move the eggs from the kitchen to the freeze dryer, you invariably used to spill it because the edge on that tray was so small. So yeah, and they're inexpensive. You get in the large one, you can get 2. Well, Angela, type the size of those trays in there for the large. But you have to play with it and see what works for your freeze dryer. But yeah, get different trays.
And Brandon in the chat said, what's the name of those trays again? So if you could put that in the chat too, that would be cool. I'm sure she's already on it, but
they're just
what we'll have to do in the future? We'll have to get all 4 of us on and do a show. That would be kind of fun.
Dude, I told you before, I'm not sure I want Angela and Lisa playing together. If you guys ever come out to Midwest Preparedness Festival, man, our lives are going to be miserable, because Lisa and Angela and probably Skane's girl, I don't know if Skane's is on here or not, and then the Cougar Club, they're all going to get together and they're going to make us miserable. So I don't mind getting online with it, but man, they're not allowed to play with each other once we meet in person, all right?
Yeah, I think that would be Well, at least the first time it would be interesting and fun, right? We'll see how it goes, but I think it would be a blast. Like I said, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I was watching her and you talk about some stuff the other day, and she's not afraid of the camera, and Lisa's not afraid of the camera, so we might as well
You'd
get
think
everybody
not, but I
together
can't
and
get her
see
to
what
make
happens.
videos on a regular basis, man. If I get her to make videos, and everybody on our channel wants to see her, that's the crazy thing. And she does great cooking videos. You know, she really does. But
She cooks good. I know that.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just watched one with her. Is it your grandson? Is it Beast? With
No,
a little chainsaw?
that's one of the community kids. That's
Oh,
one of the
okay.
community kids. He's a good kid. All the kids in that family are really good kids. They're all
Yeah.
homeschooled. They're homesteaders, and they're learning stuff, and they're good kids.
Yeah, I just watched that video and it was interesting because Lisa just did the similar product review for her budget equestrian channel, and I
Mhm.
gave her such a hard time in the beginning for that little tiny chainsaw until I had some branches that I actually had to process. You know, get those off so you can turn the rest of the branch into firewood, get the little
Mhm.
twigs off, and it actually works pretty good. And I was like, you know what, this isn't a terrible tool to have for the small jobs.
Yep.
So
Dude, I've been going out there. I've been going out there every night when I'm babysitting the goats and the sheep when they're out on the pasture. I take that little thing out there and I cut down small trees. I'm limbing stuff up like it needs to be done. I've been trying to break the thing and I can't.
yeah, yeah. It's really convenient. And I know you could just use a machete or whatever to chop the twigs off, but that's so much easier. I mean, it's literally just plus the fact that with Lisa and even, small kids like Beast or whatever,
Mhm.
it it makes them more inclined to give you a hand. So you're not doing everything
Right.
yourself. Because if I were to pull out a big chainsaw, Lisa would be like, no, I'll move some stuff out of the way for you, but I'm not touching that thing.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll tell you what, man, it's been in the 90s with a dew point of like 75 here. So going out and swinging a chainsaw or a machete or wielding a great big chainsaw is not fun. Oh, come on.
You just said, stop working me like a slave and I'll do more videos.
Don't listen to her. She's on vacation most of the time. Don't listen to her.
And then Lisa said, yeah, and then he took my chainsaw. Yeah, I use it all the time now. But I recharge the battery. I don't just leave you with a dead battery.
Yep.
At any rate, I did want to talk a little bit about what you guys were talking about the other day because you did a video, and I don't have the link. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's only like two. If you go to Grumpy Acres Farm YouTube channel, it's like 3 videos ago. It's a live stream. You guys did an hour live stream, but you're talking about you had just watched the trailer for what is the movie called again?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Yes, and she was pretty upset about it. I mean, you could tell she was visibly
Mhm.
affected by just watching the trailer because of her work in the past. Correct, things
Right.
that she used to be in that life, so she's got a firsthand knowledge of that more than the rest of us do.
Well, we actually went and saw it on Sunday. And something we found out Monday after we paid $50 to go to the movie theater is churches across the country are showing it for free. So if you are in an area where there's churches that are showing it, I mean, ask around and find out. Message aside, it's a really well done movie. They did a good job on it. And the message is so important these days. And yes, she was extremely upset because she was with an organization 10, 12 years ago that was raising money to build facilities in the Kansas City area to house these kids once they were rescued. Because there's 2 choices if they don't have someplace to go, is they either sit in a jail or they go into the foster system. And neither one of those is where neither one of those is where any kid needs to be, seriously. As long as the kid's not a bad kid, they don't need to be in that system. All right, so she was building houses like, I don't know if you know who Bear Independent is, his Caleb house that he's helping finance. It was that type of facility. And there's only the number of beds that they need compared to the number of beds that are available across the country. This and mind you, this is 10 or 12 years ago, and I guarantee it's not gotten any better, is terrible. At the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, there were only like 7,000 beds in the entire nation for kids like this. right? So we went and saw it, and it's a very moving movie, and I highly recommend it to people. And if you've been paying any attention whatsoever, it's been attacked from the left and
Yeah.
from the right, from news media, social media. Everybody's been attacking it. Even people that we consider pretty conservative people have been attacking it, which shocked the hell out of me. All I can say is number one, do the research yourself. Find out about the Underground Railroad Project and Tim Ballard and the truth behind the movie. Go do the research for yourself. It's out there and you can find it.
Yeah.
And B, look at where the attacks are coming from and look at the fruits of the people that are doing the attacking.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what works you do.
Yeah.
As far as that concerned. You know, from a Christian standpoint, works don't mean anything, but from this worldly standpoint, the work that they do in regard to that is the most important thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the bigger issue. It's much more than just the movie. It's the fact that and even before this movie, the whole that whole trafficking thing has sort of been almost labeled as a conspiracy theory, or they call it QAnon adjacent, a bunch of big time articles. And like you were saying, if you do pay attention to who is trying to squash this stuff, or who is, I guess, not trying to bring it to the forefront, because it really is an issue that really should be, and yet it's almost like it doesn't matter to the people up on top. And you guys alluded to that in that video too, about why that probably is, because there are a lot of people at the top. I mean, look at Epstein. Just that right there, that situation right there. It is, maybe they're not the same types of kids, but it's the same type of situation. And it is those guys that feel better that feel like they've reached this pinnacle and they're better than the rest of the population and they can do whatever the hell they want. And a lot of those people are quote unquote running the show.
And here's my take on the attacks. Normal, well-adjusted adults do not get upset. They do not get threatening. And they don't question the motive behind the comment, maybe we shouldn't sexualize our children, and maybe we shouldn't minimize the message of fighting human trafficking. Plain and simple. Anybody who feels threatened by it or is trying to shut it down or doing that, that's not normal. That's not somebody we should be paying attention to, period.
Yeah, yeah.
And I try not to speak in absolutes like that, but that in this case, that's an absolute.
Yeah, Tiger, great comment right here. He said, "Look at Epstein. Giselle's in jail, but what happened to all the other people that took part in all of those sins? Nothing." Because and the reason I think that is probably the same reason we're not going to hear anything about Hillary's emails. The same reason we're not going to see anything about Hunter Biden, because there are so many names that are going to be drawn into something like that it's this house of cards that they don't want falling down. So it's the whole Epstein thing that will forever be a secret, kind of like JFK getting shot.
Jim Caviezel did an interview, the guy that plays Tim Ballard. He did an interview, and he sat through 5 or 6 screenings of the movie with like 200 or 300 people each. And there's a certain part of the movie, I'm not gonna describe it to you, because go see the movie and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But he said the first times he watched it, people would start talking. The audience, they'd hit this certain point of the movie and they'd start talking. And his mind is like, oh, they're losing interest. They're losing interest. The last time he did it, he finally stopped and he asked some people, what were you guys talking about? And there's a part in the movie where people in the theater were actually turning to each other and going, Epstein's Island. They were literally saying that because they understand what's going on. And yes, okay, let's play devil's advocate here for a little bit. The movie's overhyped. The movie is like exaggerating what's going on. It's not completely truthful. Let's just say, I'm not saying that's the way it is because I do not believe that, but let's just say that's the way it is. should that detract from the idea of fighting human trafficking and fighting child sex slavery? Should it? I don't think so. Period.
Yeah.
End of sentence.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the concerning part, is that's sort of where society seems to be, not sort of, it is where society seems to be going these days, where all of this is just something that used to be completely taboo. And I think you guys were talking about a wood chipper. Somebody's got a wood chipper for
Kentucky
pedophiles or something
Sustainable
in your
Living.
show, but
Kentucky
something that used to
Sustainable
be like
Living
that
has
is almost accepted these
yeah.
days.
So Kentucky Sustainable Living has a T-shirt that says "Compost Pedophiles," and it's got a picture of a wood chipper with a bloody foot sticking out of it.
That's awesome.
The money that's raised from the purchase of these shirts goes to Veterans for Child Rescue. A portion of the profit goes to that cause, and Angela and I fully support the cause, and she wants one. I don't think I would ever wear a shirt like that, but that's something to talk about off screen.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would wear it. Hey, Wilbrook said in here, Off-Grid Doug attacked the movie. Said it was made by bad people. I didn't know that. I'm not so sure what to think about him these days anyway.
Okay. To Doug's credit, he did a video yesterday or the day before this, and he said he was wrong.
Oh, did he? Okay, good.
He flat out said he was wrong, and to his credit, he amended that. So he was one of the ones I was really shocked where the tone of his video was coming from, but he admitted that he had made a mistake.
Good. Well, if he still got that up, I may have to watch that and see what he said, because I don't know why. Because I know Jim Caviezel isn't a bad person, so maybe he's talking about other people or all that.
Well, and think about this. Think about the nature of what's going on, right? Because you're not only talking about child sex trafficking, you're talking about business, you're talking about politics, and hopefully you guys come back. I don't know if you guys. My computer keeps blacking out on me for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on. But
I'm not noticing anything over here, so hopefully they're not.
But you're dealing with a whole bunch of unsavory things right there. And to think that you could operate even on the good side of that equation and not have to do some things that were shady, is shady the right word? Or unsavory? To think that you could get through that, even attacking it, and not get dirty is very naive, right? So I'm willing, and it goes back to my statement. Look at the works. Look at the outcome of what's happening on both sides of that equation. You know what? I'm okay with my heroes getting a little dirty in the process. I'll just put it that simple. I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just a shame that something like that. I'm glad Brian and I talked about this last week, where the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes were just outrageously good. So I'm glad that people are seeing, the average citizen are seeing what an important issue this is. But it seems like the higher up they get on that the quote unquote food chain, the less they give a crap about it, the less they want it talked about. There's too many other important things, and it's just nuts to me that they're more concerned, like with the whole Pizzagate thing, right? They're more concerned about John Podesta, his name getting smeared, than the thousands of children that are getting screwed. I mean, that's where the priorities are with these people that are up there, whether that's media, whether that's politicians, whether that's corporations, CEOs, all that. That's where their priorities are. It's not the little people that they never see. It's not the ones that are invisible to them. It's their the buddies, the ones that they care about, the ones that are possibly complicit in the whole thing.
Well, and I think here's another aspect that I saw somebody talk about of the attacks against the movie. This movie was in the can for 5 years. It sat there made for 5 years, and Disney got it whenever they bought. Was it Warner Brothers or United? Anyway, they bought it. They bought the original producers, the original people that made it, and so they sat it on the shelf. And this movie would not be in the movie theater right now if the people that actually made the movie did not buy the rights back. because they were not, Disney was not going to show this movie. They were not going to allow it to be shown. And the only reason why this
Why would
movie,
that's opposite of what Disney does these days.
yeah, exactly. But the 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 this movie has been successful because the message has moved people to spread the word, and the way that people market it, they're pay it forward. If you've already seen the movie and you want to see it again, don't see it again. Buy a ticket for somebody else, right? Word of mouth is what's making this message go out, and I think that the powers that be, the system, if you will, I think the system is afraid because this is the first time in a long time that I can remember that we the people have taken something and elevated it to where they can't touch it. Because let's face it, man, they made $85 million in 2 weeks. Well, since July 4th, right? Off an independent movie. They're crushing the big studios. They're crushing all of them.
Yeah,
And
Indiana Jones and all that.
yep, it's putting a message out there that resonates with people, and it's something that, like you said, there's pretty good evidence that some very powerful people are involved in this, and they're dirty, and they don't like that. They don't like the fact, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to crush the movement behind Sound of Freedom, because the next time something comes up, they don't want the same thing to happen. So.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's even more important for people to spread the word about the movie. Go see it, share it with people, and get the message out.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's the game plan. Oops, wrong one. And I'm not going to mention this because we're on YouTube, but I'll throw it up on the screen there because I absolutely agree with it. But that's the game plan for everything. You look at the whole thing, everything that happened in the Capitol. It is make sure that the whole goal is to make sure it doesn't happen again. Make sure everyone knows the consequences and all of that, so they don't, get all, get their, decide that they're going to go ahead and do this again. Make sure that they know if they do try, this is what's going to happen to you. So,
yep,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
I was in cardiac rehab, actually doing cardiac rehab. I was on a treadmill whenever all that happened. And the nurses there, they were in awe of what's going on. I made the comment. I said, I'm not sure I agree with it, but maybe they do need to be scared. And I think the reaction from the political class and the so-called elites, I hate using that word because they're not elite,
yeah,
but the response from these people shows exactly how terrified they were, that the people actually rose up and what happened was not what they say it was. It wasn't. It wasn't even close to what they say it was. But it scared them so much that we've always had political prisoners in the United States, and this row with the Capitol incident has just made it perfectly clear. You cannot escape the fact that the United States has political prisoners now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So, all right, one last thing before we get out of here tonight. I saw this today right before we got on the show, and I wanted to pull it up. Texas Union posted this in our group, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. This is he's got this little chart right here. He said, it's a meme. I'm not sure where he got it, but 1% control the world, 5% are their puppets, 90% have no clue about this and don't care, 4% know and want to wake up the 90%, but the 1% uses the 5% to stop the 4% from waking up the 90%. Does that not is that not it or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's pretty close. There's a lot of math there.
Yeah.
And it's late in the day, but no, it's true. And this is something I've talked with people about, and I've thought a lot about. How many people out there? I cut some friendships off after the last election, and we talked about it in our live that I recently took down. I'm making a video on why that live stream went away, and it'll be out in a couple of days. But I talked about this. I cut some friendships off because I was like, Anybody who could vote for that man is either evil, corrupt, or ignorant. And I don't need people like that in my life, right? But it was Nick Fritas, as a matter of fact. He's a legislature in Virginia, and he's got a YouTube channel. They do some great lives 3 times a week, and he's got a secondary channel that's really good. I highly recommend him, and he does some shorts that are awesome. But he made the point. He said, these people, a lot of these people, even with everything that's gone on, the propaganda works so well that they literally don't know, right? And it's that 90% that don't know. Now, here's my thing. At what point does ignorance no longer become a defense? Right? For me, 8 years of Obama was enough to completely shred the ignorance as a defense.
Oh yeah.
For a lot of people, it wasn't. Darren from Hacks from the Homesteader, who's going to be on Kentucky Sustainable Living tomorrow. They're getting ready for their festival in October. So every Friday they do a live stream with people that are going to speak there or present there. And Angela and I were on last week, and Darren's going to be on next week. Well, anyway, we were coming back from the Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee, and you got to go by the Tennessee Lake, the big lake that's there in mid Tennessee. And he pointed at the lake. He goes, "Look at that." I was like, "What?" He said, "Look at all those boats." It was Sunday afternoon. And he said, those people don't know, and they don't care, or they wouldn't be out on the lake on a Sunday afternoon spending money doing that. And at the time I was agreeing with him, but I hadn't thought about how deep a statement that was, and how important it was to where, as preparedness-minded people and patriotic-minded people, how important that is to us. Because we got one of two choices at this point. We can go out there and we can attack those unprepared people, and we can turn them off, and we can tell them how stupid they are and how ignorant they are, and we can drive them right into the arms of the people that want us to stop talking. Yeah. Or we can understand that the situation is not the way we perceive it to be, and try to bring them into the fold.
Yeah. And that goes to exactly what I was talking about to start off the show too. How Lisa and I try to dispel that notion of what that crazy prepper is, right?
Right.
You bring them into the fold, you tell them, hey, you know what? It's not all this crap that you heard. That has nothing really to do with being prepared for different events and different situations, and just being prepared yourself to handle whatever life throws your way. That has nothing to do with, the mainstream prepper narrative out there. And if you can pull them in, and then there are some that are just never going to give you the time of day, don't want to, they don't want to hear about it. It's something that, it just doesn't fit into their lifestyle, their routine and all that. That's right. Fine. Go your way, do your thing. I think it's really dangerous for people that sort of had gotten into preparedness, because you talked about at what point does it, do you not have an excuse anymore? Mm-hmm. Those people that have got into preparedness and maybe they just decided, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't care anymore. I don't have the time for this. Those, I think, are the people that don't have an excuse anymore, because you know better right. And you chose not to do something. So
it's like that dude in the Matrix that took the blue pill so he could eat the steak. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And who was it? Somebody posted, so I don't know who said it, but they said, have you tried talking to those people, the ignorant? Yes, and it's extremely frustrating. But you cannot, and the Bible gives us a great way to handle this. At some point you just got to shake the dust off your feet and move on. So mm-hmm. you try to engage these people, and for every, even if out of 10 people you only get one person to at the very least open their mind and start thinking about it, you've won. Because that's one less person that if something happens that you're going to have to worry about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I try to approach this the way that I do, Lisa and I, and even you, how you and Tag and all of your people do the things, that the whole preparedness, the homesteading. Because if somebody gets into this and they see I'm not going to throw any names out that I want to. I want to really bad, but I'm not going to talk about, especially since he doesn't live in our country. Now everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but if people see stuff like that first,
Mhm.
their fears and their everything that they're thinking about right there just gets super heightened up, and they're like, "Oh crap, I really have to do this now." The sky is falling. I knew it was, but I try to get people, away from that and say, "Hey, you know what? Chill out, relax, just get started, just start doing stuff because." The odds are we've got time. Yeah, the odds are you're going to be just fine. That nothing's going to happen tomorrow. Who knows these days, though? The more I say that, the more uh, the more I question myself because it seems like on a daily basis things are going crazy. But you just gotta, yeah, it's get out of that, and that's probably a reason a lot of people get into it and then just abandon it as well. That's because they see all that and the stress and the fear and all that, and they're like, oh, I can't handle this anymore. So
Well, and it's tiring. It's tiring whenever you feel like you're behind. You're trying to catch up,
yeah,
right? You know. And so, how do we deal with that? Number one, if you're at that point where you're feeling overwhelmed and stuff, find somebody you can talk to. Find somebody that's like-minded, and talk to them. I've got this. We've got this thing, and the best way to start building community is have a potluck. It sounds so stupid and simple, and it is that stupid and simple. But if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid,
hmm
right? Find two people. Find two people that are like-minded, and invite them to a potluck, and tell them to invite two people to a potluck, and have it at a neutral place. Have it at a park or have it at a church. If you want, have them come to your house. I'm not keen on that one, but some people don't have a problem with that. But have a potluck and just invite them over to some place and talk. Don't talk about prepping. Don't talk about politics. Just get to know each other and just have a conversation. Chances are you're going to find at least one person in that group that you want to continue the conversation with. All right? And you just keep doing that until you get a group of people. And like I said at the beginning, the community is going to look different for everybody. We've got a group here locally who is a full-on prepper mag, and to their credit, they've been a prepper mag for 15 years, which
wow,
is crazy to me. Because we tried doing that with our group, and um, we had one meeting, and the only agreement we came to was we need another meeting, right? So it's a hard thing to do, and the fact that they're that successful is amazing to me. But to other people like our community, you know, we decided that we're going to be in the same geographical area. We're not going to be co-located on a bug out location, right? We're all going to have our own homesteads, and we're trying to build our community that way. We're on pace right now to have added 12 families to our community in the last 18 months by December, which is
cool.
awesome. And part of the thing is we want to start influencing local politics. We all need to be involved in local politics and the schools. If you've got kids, even if you don't have kids, be involved in the schools. But you want to start influencing the environment around you, so that if something does happen, you're not out there by yourself and you're not fighting against the tide whenever it rolls in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, real quick, one last thing on this, a little bit before you were just talking about that, but Sovereign Citizen said a lot of times the person you're talking to isn't the one whose mind you change. That's a very good point, and this has happened to me a bunch of times, not just in preparedness, but with a lot of different things. Even just your children, right? You're saying something to one kid, you're trying to teach them about this or that, and it's the other one you had no idea who's actually paying attention to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be you could be having a conversation about something and someone else, at the table or whatever, just overhearing it and really taking an interest in it, but doesn't want to jump into your conversation. You just never know what's going to happen, and it really depends on how you broach the subject too. I think as you're talking to people about this stuff is, it's not you don't have to talk about the crazy stuff. You don't have to talk about the insane stuff.
Your sidekick summed it up perfectly. And I took the conversation I had with him and broke it up into some shorter videos, and one of the videos talks about this, but he summed it up perfectly. You know, he said we have to open our mind and we have to listen to people with opposing opinions. Because even if I disagree with that person 99%, if I agree with that one tiny 1%, I need to integrate that into my thinking. Because the ultimate goal that so we've got the truth. The truth is out there. You know, the truth is what it is, and it's immutable. There's no your truth, my truth, their truth. It's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own perception of the truth. And what we should strive to do all the time is get our perception of the truth as closely aligned to what the actual truth is as we possibly can. Because when we do that, what that's going to do is it's going to open up so many different avenues that we can approach a problem from. Right? We can approach it from so many different angles if we align ourselves exactly what the truth is. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it sucks. I do not like agreeing with liberals. But sometimes liberals out there, Marxists, sometimes like that 1% of the time they'll say something that makes sense, and you got to take it into account, right?
Yeah. Well, and the same applies. It just because somebody on the right says something doesn't mean, and I tend to lean quite a bit that way. Doesn't mean they're right, and it doesn't mean that just because they say it, I have to agree
Mm-hmm.
with what they've said. So yeah, it's the same exact thing. Just because they're on the left doesn't mean I have to disagree with everything they said just because they said it. Now, if it's Biden, that's a little bit different. I'm
Okay,
going
yeah,
to
there's certain
disagree with
avenues.
everything he says. But yeah, it was a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we are going to get out of here. We are at almost an hour and 20. You got anything? Were you going to say something before I wrap this up?
No, no, I was just gonna say, you know, that's a perfect way to think about it. And if you want if you want to see the other side of the equation, and I'm not don't do it logged in, but just do it anonymously. There's a chick on YouTube that on Sunday afternoons she does a live stream, and she is a full on Marxist, unapologetic. She will talk straight off a Marxist points. Go watch her seriously, and it's so illuminating, you know. And
I
I
will
can
end
only,
up busting my TV.
well, I can only hand like 10, 15 minutes of her, but no, it's really interesting seeing where these people are.
Yeah, yeah. It's like me watching CNN. 2.5
Yeah.
minutes, it's off. Yeah. All right, so we are going to get out of here tonight. I do appreciate you being on, and I'm serious. We need to sometime in the future. We'll get all four of us on, your wife and my wife,
Mhm.
and we'll just have a talk about prepping and all that good stuff. Get the both sides of the story, the male female perspective,
Yep.
and all that would be a really fun show. Before we get out of here, once again, with what you guys have your Grumpy Acres Farm website, try it out. If you've never tried any homemade freeze dried food, I mean, and I'm not talking about like the little marshmallows you get in the cereal or anything like that, but go to Grumpy Acres Farm, just buy a bag of of one of their things, even if it's the ice cream sandwich, the fun, yummy stuff. Try it out and see what you think, and then work towards getting one of those harvest rights and doing that stuff for yourself. So, and this is coming from a guy that actually sells long-term food storage stuff. So, and I'm saying this stuff is just so much better. I can't wait. Ours is going to be here in the next couple of days, and I'm probably going to make some mistakes and all that. But, and then once again, let everyone know about what you guys are doing at the Midwest Preparedness Project.
So Midwest Preparedness Project is the first week in October. It I think camping opens up on Wednesday and it goes through Sunday. We have classes on Friday and Saturday. Saturday night, Angela and Darren are going to run a seed exchange. I'm sorry, that's Friday night. Saturday night is the potluck in Bartertown. No cash involved, straight trade. You can only trade silver is the only silver and gold, precious metals, the only gold or only currency you could use. Um, got some
That's
really
cool.
good speakers. But
Yeah.
and if you guys want to see us, we'll be at the Doug and Stacy's Homesteading Life Conference the first week in August. The last week in August, we will be in Marshfield, Missouri, at the Ozark Homestead Expo, and then second or third week in September we will be at Self Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee. If you guys are close to that, you need to go to that. Nicole Sauce, Living Free in Tennessee, is the person you need to watch to get all the information. I'm not going to say it's not a child friendly place. I mean, it's an adult thing. They've got Jack Spirko is going to be there this year.
It's not a drag show, you mean?
No, it's not a drag show. It's not a drag show, but the
sarcasm, everyone.
It's not a. There's a lot of salty language that goes on. Let's just
yeah.
All right, let's just put it that way. But Jack Spirko is going to be there, and Chuck
cool.
Peoples is going to be there. They're doing he's actually doing a paid class on Friday of Stop the Bleed, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen his class. He does a really good job. We got some special things lined up with our vendor tent with that and him and some other people. And then Midwest Preparedness Festival is the first week in October because the Boy Scouts rented our campsite every Friday in September. Boy Scouts. Anyway. And then the last weekend in October, we're going to be in Kentucky. Where are we going to be in Kentucky? Angela, if you're still in the chat, where are we going to be in Kentucky? Kentucky Sustainable Living. The YouTube channel's that, or Shelly from Two Old Crows they talk a lot about it too. But that's going to be their first festival, and it looks like it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah. Hey, just real quick, Yoda said I can walk Lisa through it. I'm not sure what they're talking about, but she said give G your number. I definitely will after the show as well, and you guys, they can. I'm sure it's something with the harvest, right?
This is the freeze dryer stuff. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about freeze drying, our email is on our YouTube channel about page. Drop us a line. Yes, we sell the freeze dried food. It's more important that everybody buy one and start putting this stuff away themselves and start doing it for themselves. You know, if you don't have the time or money, we're more than happy to sell you our goods, but we would rather you go buy your own and become self-sufficient in that manner.
Yeah. What do you say? Somebody calls you up and says, "Hey man, I need 2 years worth of dehydrated food." You could be able to fulfill that order?
It may take some time. Some time, but we'll try it. We had two large freeze dryers going, but we had the compressor on one died, and so we're trying to get it fixed right now. But so we're only running off of one, but we try. We'll try.
So you do have the means to at least give it a shot. Yeah. At the very least, go try it. You know, if you're curious about it, try it out. Like probably not going to want to do your whole long-term food storage with that, but give it a shot, and then great for camping, hiking, all of that stuff. Just throw it on your shelf. Good for 25 years or whatever. Fantastic stuff. But yeah, we are going to get out of here. I appreciate it. Like I said, we'll have to do this again here in the future, whether it's your channel, my channel, or both channels like we are tonight, whatever. Maybe another time with Tag as well. But with that, everyone in the chat, appreciate you all. Half of them already left because I said we were leaving 10 minutes ago. So. But I appreciate you all joining in tonight. Until next time, take care and prepare, and we will talk to you all later. Stick around a little bit, Grumpy, and we'll chat afterwards.
Go live a life done free, people.